Hello everyone, this is take two. Hopefully it's recording this time and I can get this video done out of the way. Anyway, the point of this was to try and go over some of the things that I'd asked about in the group, which was does anybody get excessively tired with activities such as driving, reading and computer work? I'm not sure who added in the extra poll about thinking, but we'll have to deal with that a little bit separately. It's a little bit different. For anyone that's been following myself and Steve for a while, you know that we kind of go all in on certain topics. So if you've already guessed, it's a problem with the eyes. The visual system is incredible, and it can really cause a lot of problems with your data activities that you really wouldn't expect. In fact, the visual system is so important that it has, or it takes up space in each area of the brain, every lobe of the brain, which is not seen for any other system of the body. Now, for us to be able to interpret the world around us, we need to be able to see it, obviously. And I think something that many people don't understand is that our visual system and the effectiveness and efficiency of our eyes actually is a big factor in determining what our posture is. Because if our brain sees a certain thing, which isn't in fact what reality is, then it's going to move us in a different shape to try and get away from any potential dangers or try to compensate for old injuries and so forth. So going through some of the examples, driving is the one that we see quite often. You know, you'll start off for a drive, maybe a long drive, even maybe it's just an hour. You're fueled up, you've got some good food in you, you're hydrated, everything's good, you've ticked all the boxes. Yet you still feel absolutely shattered when you're driving, and it just doesn't make sense. Now, the reason for this is because certain parts of your eyes aren't working, and it's called optokinetics, which is basically a term that describes movement of the eyes. Eyes move in two main ways. Either we have what's called a saccade, which means if I'm looking straight ahead and I want to simply look left, then that's a saccade. We look either way. Or we'll try and track an image, which is much more of what's called a smooth pursuit. When you're driving, the biggest stimulus or the biggest task for your eyes is to keep you on the road. Now the car's going to be moving, so your eyes are going to be tracking up and down, up and down, up and down, saccading and smooth pursuing, up and down all the time. And if that system gets tired easily or just isn't working as well as it should be, you're going to feel absolutely shattered, and you're not going to know why. And it's only when you stop that then things start to come back. So that's the reason mostly for driving is up-down motion, which is controlled by an area of the brain called the midbrain, which also tends to get what we call basically very wound up and can lead to a real kind of increase in your fight and flight response, and is really the home and the start of our sympathetic stress response. It's where it all starts from. So even if you're in that state already, and then you're asking to go and do a long drive and your eyes aren't working, it's not gonna work. For reading and for laptop work, it's much more horizontal task, and it's much more smooth pursuit. It's much more tracking the images on the screen. Now this is really common, we see this in children mostly. Perhaps they have difficulties reading, spelling, issues at school, and we've seen that when we treat their eyes, actually things improve quite a lot. So basically the idea of this was to give you that understanding, and then now give you some exercises so that you can firstly test and then start to improve your visual systems. And it's you have to train it. It's if you're not as efficient as you should be, there are techniques and things that we do in clinic that can kind of quick start that and do a treatment for it. But we can also get you just practicing these movements, which is going to do a lot to help. You think, and most people think, oh, my eyes are fine, I can see fine, I don't have an issue, I've got 20/20 vision. But that's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about, can your eyes control their movement? This is not about the visual image itself, if that makes sense. And I'd say probably 7 or 8 out of 10 people that we see coming into the clinic, they all have problems with their eyes. Everyone. It's just the nature of the world that we live in today, I think, and the fact that we're constantly looking at screens and asking our eyes to do a lot. Anyway, task number 1, or exercise number 1, is going to be for this optokinetics. The easiest way to get you to practice this is to go on YouTube and type in optokinetics. and you'll see one of the videos will be a red and white kind of dashed lines, which is just basically going to move across the screen or move up and down the screen. And you can basically just practice watching that, focusing on the red and tracking the image, so your eyes will be moving up and down as if you're looking out of the window in the car and trying to look at things going past. So with each of these exercises, basically what we want you to do is, the goal is to be able to do it for a minute. Now initially you are not going to be able to do that. It's just not going to happen. You may be able to last 10 seconds and then you're going to reach what's called metabolic fatigue, whereby your neurons just can't handle it. It's too much. You may start to feel lightheaded, dizzy. So please, if you do feel that, stop right away. It's really important. So initially you may be able to do 10 seconds. Then you're going to have a rest for about a minute and you're going to try to do it 2 or 3 times. Now the key with this type of work is that we're not trying to do a lot. It's not as if we're in the gym and we're kind of pumping weights. It's a neurological exercise. You have to do a little bit often to train the system, to kind of grind that in, rather than doing lots at once, because you're just going to reach overwhelm and then there's no point. You're going to make yourself feel worse. So working up until fatigue perhaps might be 10-15 seconds to begin with. Rest for a minute and do it 2 or 3 times, ideally twice, 3 times a day. And it's not something that you're going to be doing for forever. A couple of weeks and you'll start to see a real difference and you'll be heading towards that minute. And then hopefully the symptom, which may be I get really tired when I'm driving, now isn't there anymore. So then you know, okay, my eyes are working better. Plus obviously if you're getting longer duration before fatigue, then that's great as well. The next exercise, which is going to be more so also for kind of driving, but more so I'd say kind of computer work, reading, that type of thing, is we're going to look at this saccade motion. So 2 exercises. Number 1, you're going to put your hand like this, okay? Put it out in front of you and then drop down 30 degrees. Really, really simple. I'm going to look at my left finger, look at my right, look at my left, look at my right, and simply move between the 2 as fast as I can. And that should be the kind of the beginner's version. Again, you may only be able to do 10-15 seconds, working up to a minute. The progression from that then, which is a little bit more complicated, is going to be 2 fingers, this time not here, but here. Drop down a little bit. You're going to look straight ahead first of all. Look to the left finger, then move the head to face it. Look to the right finger, head there. So I'll just give you an example. And already that one for me is quite difficult, so that's something that I need to work on. That's the exercise for the saccade. And again, same rules apply, up to a minute. If you have any questions, just post them in the comments. And then finally, what we want you doing is practicing some tracking motion. So this is really simple. You're just going to take your finger down, and we're going to be working on diagonals. So you can start up here, look at the finger, and follow the finger right down and across. First you'll practice going one way, and then you're going to practice going the other way. Now, if you do any kind of sport, this is also really important. Any kind of quick-based sport, racket sports, anything where, coordination-based, which is pretty much most things now, people forget that we need to rely on the information from our eyes to determine the movement of our body. So, I've worked with quite a few people now who've noticed a real kind of good improvement in performance and activity in their sport, because maybe their reaction time is better, balance is better, because they're getting the correct information from their eyes. Final exercise is called gaze stabilization. And this is about being able to focus on a fixed image whilst you're moving around. So this is much more, driving, even if you're running, on the bike, anything like that. So in this case, thumb is going to be in front of you, and thumb isn't going to move this time. I'm going to keep my eyes on my thumb, but move my head side to side. Again, working kind of quick head movements. You can get quicker, but always go within your limit. Working up to a minute, you may only be able to do 10-15 seconds. You want to be doing with this one kind of horizontal, but then also turn the thumb, raise it up a bit, and up, down motion, and then from below, up down motion. So there's a bunch of things for you to practice, test out on yourself, make some notes, and see how you improve over kind of 3 weeks. I hope that was useful. Do post any kind of comments, questions, issues below. Sorry that this took so long to do. Yeah, I think that's everything. Any questions or anything else that anybody wants to know, then just let us know. Thanks.